The soft hum of the restaurant was broken only by the occasional clink of cutlery and the low murmur of conversation. A faint aroma of truffle oil and expensive wine floated in the air. It was a place where billionaires came to flaunt their money and make deals over steak worth more than an average worker's weekly pay. Amelia stood by the corner table, her tray balanced neatly in one hand, posture straight, uniform crisp. She had learned early that in places like this, invisibility was a virtue. You moved quietly, spoke softly, and never interrupted the people who believed they owned the world. But tonight invisibility was not an option. At table 9, the man everyone whispered about sat surrounded by lawyers and assistants, Gregory Vance, the ruthless CEO of Vance Industries. He was known for buying companies, gutting them, and walking away richer. His reputation was legend, his arrogance unmatched. Amelia had seen him once before, but tonight he wasn't alone. Across from him sat an older man with trembling hands clutching a thin folder. The man looked out of place, his worn jacket and nervous eyes a sharp contrast to the CEO's tailored suit and diamond cufflinks. Amelia noticed the way Gregory leaned back, smirking. "It's a standard contract," he said, voice smooth and patronizing. "Just sign and you'll be set for life." The old man hesitated. "Sir, I just want to make sure I understand what it says. I can't read English very well." Gregory's smile vanished. "Then you shouldn't be in business if you can't read a simple contract," he snapped. His entourage laughed, an obedient chorus. "You want me to explain it for you?" "I just want to make sure I'm not making a mistake," the old man murmured, looking down at the papers like they were written in a foreign language, which to him they were. Amelia felt something twist in her chest. She had seen this before. Her father, too, had lost everything to people like Vance, unscrupulous men who preyed on the poor and uneducated, wrapping deceit in legal jargon. "Sir," Gregory said again, louder this time, leaning forward, his voice dripping with contempt. "You can't even read that. Just sign it." He waved a dismissive hand at the papers. "You wouldn't understand it, even if you tried." The laughter that followed was cruel, sharp. Amelia's hand tightened around the tray. The old man's hands shook as he reached for the pen, tears pooling in his eyes. And then something inside her broke. Before she could think twice, Amelia set down the tray, walked forward, and placed a gentle hand on the man's shoulder. "Excuse me, sir," she said softly. "May I take a look?" The laughter stopped. The CEO turned toward her, eyebrows raised in disbelief. "And who are you supposed to be?" he sneered. "The waitress?" "Yes," Amelia replied, meeting his gaze, "but I can read it." A tense silence filled the room. Gregory leaned back, his smirk returning. "You can read it?" he repeated mockingly. "Well, this should be entertaining. Go ahead, sweetheart, read away." Amelia took the folder from the old man's trembling hands, scanning the pages quickly. Her eyes moved with precision, her mind calculating every clause and subtext. Years ago, before her mother's death, Amelia had been studying corporate law. She had been one semester away from graduation when life forced her to quit school and take care of her family. She knew this language. The manipulative phrasing, the traps hidden in small print, the false promises disguised as opportunity. Gregory watched her closely. "Well?" he asked, tapping his gold pen on the table. "Tell your friend how generous I'm being." Amelia looked up, her eyes calm but cold. "Generous?" she repeated. "You're stealing his company. This contract gives you full ownership of his patents, his land, and his equipment for 1/10 of their actual value, and it also holds him liable for your company's future debt." The old man's eyes widened. "What? That can't be right." "It's right," Amelia said, her voice steady. "You'd be left with nothing. He'd walk away with everything you've built." The CEO's face darkened. "Watch your tone," he said sharply. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, I do," she said. "This clause here," she pointed to the fine print, "gives him the right to use your name and assets as collateral. And this one," she turned another page, "says you'd owe him damages if you backed out after signing. It's a trap." For a moment, no one spoke. The old man took the papers back, hands trembling harder now, but not from fear, from rage. He looked up at Gregory. "You tried to cheat me," he whispered. Gregory slammed his hand on the table. "Enough," he barked. "You're a waitress, not a lawyer. Don't pretend you understand contracts." Amelia's lips curved into a faint smile. "Actually, I do. I used to study corporate law before life got complicated. But don't worry, I remember enough to recognize fraud when I see it. His jaw tightened. You think you can embarrass me in my own restaurant? I think, she said quietly, you embarrassed yourself. Security began to move, but the old man raised a hand. No, he said firmly. Let her finish. Gregory's expression flickered with annoyance, but he leaned back again, pretending to be amused. Fine. Go on, Miss Lawyer. Amelia continued, explaining every section, every deceitful phrase, in clear language the old man could understand. With each sentence, Gregory's mask slipped a little more. His assistants exchanged uneasy glances. Even the waitstaff had stopped pretending not to listen. The truth, once spoken aloud, had a way of stripping away the power of intimidation. By the time she finished, the old man tore the contract in half and stood. You'll get nothing from me, he said, and I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of man you are. Gregory's smirk vanished completely. He stood too, leaning forward. You just made the biggest mistake of your life. You think anyone will believe you over me? He turned to Amelia, his voice low and dangerous. You're fired. Amelia didn't flinch. You can't fire someone who just quit, she said, setting down her apron. And before you try to threaten me, I'd suggest you check who owns that patent you were trying to steal, because the old man's daughter, me, filed it in her name years ago. The entire room froze. What? Gregory blinked. What did you say? My father, she said, turning to the old man, worked his whole life for that invention. I helped him file it when I was still in school. You tried to steal from him. But that patent and the company are legally protected under my name. Gregory's color drained, his lawyers whispered furiously, flipping through papers. Amelia simply smiled. Oh, and by the way, she added, you just admitted in front of witnesses that you knew what was in that fraudulent contract. The CEO's composure cracked completely. You'll regret this, he hissed. Amelia picked up her bag, her father's hand in hers. I already don't. Months later, the story made headlines. CEO indicted for fraud. Whistleblower Waitress wins $1 billion settlement. Amelia stood before a sea of reporters, flashbulbs lighting her face. Her modest dress and calm smile were a stark contrast to the chaos that once defined her life. The court had ruled in her favor. Not only had Gregory's company been fined heavily, but the rights to multiple stolen patents had been restored to their rightful owners. The settlement was historic, making Amelia and her father billionaires overnight. As she walked out of the courthouse, her father's hand on her shoulder, reporters shouted questions. How does it feel? One yelled. Amelia paused, looked at the cameras and smiled faintly. It feels like justice. Later that night she returned to the same restaurant, not as a waitress, but as its new owner. Gregory's empire had crumbled, and this place, once a symbol of his power, now belonged to the woman he had mocked. She stood by table 9 again, the memories flooding back, the arrogance, the laughter, the humiliation. Only now, the silence that filled the room was one of respect. A young waitress approached timidly. Miss, I heard what you did, she said. It's inspiring. Amelia smiled kindly. Remember something, she said softly. Never let anyone tell you what you can't understand. Knowledge is power, and no one can take that away from you. She turned toward the window, city lights reflecting in her eyes. Once she had served the powerful, now she was one of them. But she carried herself differently, not with arrogance, but with grace. Because she knew what real power was, not wealth, not status, but standing up when no one else would.